Hello, hello. Welcome everyone. Today I wanted to hop on and talk to you guys about the stress response and how we can really kind of navigate this uncertain and overwhelming time right now a bit better by using and really like using food as medicine and supplementing with the right foods to better manage the stress response, manage our anxiety levels, and kind of like not throw logs on the fire. Yeah. I just wanted to hop on here and kind of get into this. I know this is an issue right now. I know a lot of us feel our stress levels, our anxiety levels rising. Yeah. As you can see, I'm here in my workout clothes. We're all kind of trying to just like manage it all right now, right? We're working from home. We are washing our hands every 5 seconds. We are cooking everything that we're eating. Maybe we can't go outside, all the things. So we're trying to manage and balance way more than normal. Yeah, especially in this like rocky, uncertain time. So I wanted to really get you some information and education on how you can do this through the food that you're eating, because I don't want you making the mistake of eating these certain foods, maybe because they're more convenient, or maybe because you just don't know any better, or because your cravings are so bad, and then we're really not supporting our body's functioning. And let's just dive right into it. Yeah. First and foremost, this is something that I talk about like literally all the time with all of my students. And it's interesting because yesterday I got on Instagram and I did like a little poll, asked you guys how many of you, and if you were like struggling with cravings and like snacking all the time, right? And loads of people said yes. And everyone that said no was a student of mine. So they had either learned something from me, purchased a product from me, something like that. So it was kind of interesting to see that the people that came in and said no, I was like, these are all my past students. This is amazing. So there is method to my madness, yeah. But first and foremost, I want to hop on here and talk about like the blood sugar curve. This is something that I talk about so much because it makes such a huge difference in how we show up and how we really feel in our bodies, right? We want to work with the body, not work against the body. That is also something that I talk about a lot. So what is the blood sugar curve? So basically like everything that we eat affects our blood sugar in a different way, right? Most people exist on a blood sugar curve that's like this. It's like a roller coaster, right? So they wake up in the morning, cortisol, which is the stress hormone, is naturally higher. It's something that helps us wake up in the morning, right? It should be naturally higher unless we have an issue, a hormone imbalance, but it also shouldn't be like too much higher. And it should ideally be the highest in the morning and kind of going down slowly but surely throughout the day, which helps us go to bed at night, right? Unless we're like wired and tired, maybe cortisol's high at night, our hormones are being affected there. But normally it's highest in the morning. Right? If it's not, come talk to me. We got some work to do. And if you feel like that could be an issue, get a stress hormone test done. You like spit into some vials. It's very simple, but it's amazing information to have. So anyway, hormones naturally highest in the morning. So most of us wake up, we hop out of bed, right? Or maybe we're dragging ourselves out of bed. We instantly go for like a coffee and maybe we're running out the door. So we grab like a muffin at Starbucks, right? What happens here is that our blood sugar is going to spike really high because the things that spike our blood sugar the highest are sugars and carbohydrates. And all carbohydrates break down into sugars regardless of what kind of carbohydrates they are. So let's see here. Of course, processed carbs are kind of not the better choice, right? Like it's different. A sweet potato is different than a donut. It's obviously the better choice. Quinoa is different than a donut. It's obviously the better choice. However, all carbohydrates break down into sugars, which is also why we want to always pair them with like fat and fiber, right? And protein, which we'll get into. But normally it shoots our cortisol up, and our blood sugar goes up, our insulin goes up, right? So when this glucose is released into the body, insulin is secreted, insulin goes up, cortisol goes up. Insulin is a pro-inflammatory hormone. So insulin is inflammatory. We don't want it to be pumping out all the time, right? Our body can't really do its thing. It can't do its like healing thing when we've just got surges of insulin happening all the time. It's also really not good for weight management if that is a goal of any of ours. Insulin is also the fat storage hormone. So we don't want it pumping out all day, which is why I don't teach 6 small meals a day. I think that's a very quick way to damage your metabolism, not really help it. So anyway, cortisol goes up. When our blood sugar goes up really high, it crashes really low, which is why I kind of like use this example of like the blood sugar kind of high highs and low lows, right? When it dips really low, we feel irritable, we feel anxious, we feel stressed, yeah? And that's when we get into the office, or it hits like 10 a.m. and we are reaching for a second coffee. We are wanting to stick our hands in the, like our coworkers' M&Ms, right? Or someone brings in donuts to the office and we just like go into them because we're hungry and we feel a little shaky. Our body's actually craving the sugar and carbohydrates in that moment because it's craving a source of glucose, which is energy, right? We use glucose for energy. So the body's craving that when it dips so low, even though you just ate like an hour or 2 hours before. So when it dips really low, then it's also harder in this time for us to make a healthier choice, right? So when we get to the restaurant and we sit down and the bread basket comes and we're so freaking shaky and hangry that we don't even care what we eat, right? We just like dive in. We're like, whatever, we'll start tomorrow, right? This is where we get into trouble, right? So we just end up eating whatever's in front of us and makes our decisions. We're not working with our body here. We're working against our body here, Makes the decisions more difficult on ourselves because we're fighting our own like physiological response. So then we maybe have the bread basket, it shoots back up and then it crashes low, right? And then it comes to dinner time and we're like so tired, we're trying to maybe corral the kids, or we just had a long day at work or whatever. We bust open that fridge, we palm whatever we see and we stick it in our mouth because we're so hungry. This is what we want to avoid, right? So that's kind of the blood sugar curve that most people exist on. Anyone that follows my guidelines, has my cookbook, has my new gut health guide, quarantine edition, has done healing guts and shaken butts, does not exist on this curve anymore. And this is why a lot of people report better sleep, less anxiety, and less stress almost immediately during this program, right? I've had students that have slept for the first time through the night in a decade. While doing my program. The things that bump cortisol and blood glucose levels the highest are sugar and carbohydrates. The things that bump the blood sugar curve the least amount, lowest is like straight fat, right? Like a tablespoon of coconut oil, which most of us aren't really eating just like that. But straight fat, we want those healthy fats. They support our blood sugar response, they support our hormones, they support our skin, all the goods, right? And then we've got like protein and fiber. These things really bump our blood sugar levels very minimally. Fiber can actually help the blood sugar response. So when we're looking at carbohydrates, if we look at, not that I count any of this or teach how to count any of this, but when one of the reasons why a sweet potato is a better option than like a donut, right, is because a sweet potato obviously has vitamins and minerals and nutrients, and is delicious. But it also contains like fiber, which is going to help slow the blood sugar in, like the sugar release into the bloodstream, right? So I'm saying all of this and kind of explaining this blood sugar curve because when we're on this roller coaster, y'all, it's hard. It is not supportive of the life that we want to live, really, right? And we're making it harder on ourselves. And this is why like I'm not a fan of diets, because we don't want to be starving, because we also end up here in that low blood curve, that blood sugar curve, where we're freaking starving, right? That is stressful on the body. This is a way to trigger anxiety, to trigger a stress response, right? This is not what we need. We want to get on this very even keeled blood sugar curve. And this is why, once again, you'll see in all of my books, even in my free 3-day gut reset, right? We start the morning with a hand morning power smoothie because it contains protein, healthy fats, fiber, and greens. These things help elongate the blood sugar curve so it's more like this than this, right? This is not supportive of us. This triggers the stress response. So let's just like put together an example meal to help you kind of, I'm all into actionable action items. I want you guys to like get the results now, yeah? So what could be a sample meal for us to like really support that blood sugar curve? Any of those hand morning power smoothies. You can get access to these in literally all of my products. Even my free 3-day gut reset, as I mentioned before. If you don't have that, and a nice option right now would be like, especially since we're all kind of like stocked up on this food, if we have that privilege, we're going for more like, long lasting foods. Like eggs last a really long time. If you eat eggs, 2 eggs in the morning with some avocado, we've got the healthy fat. We've also got the healthy fat in the yolk, right? Also loaded with choline and vitamin D, really essential right now. Also protein, right? and then maybe some sauteed greens, whatever you have. I always keep frozen spinach in my freezer. I put it in my smoothies. I use it in stir fries, all the things. I've also got some frozen kale in there right now. This would be a great option because we've got the fiber, we've got the greens, we've got the healthy fat, and we've got the protein. This is why I start every single day with my hand morning power smoothie. It's not just about like decreasing bloating or like managing weight, right? Or even clearing skin. This smoothie helps me stay calm, productive in my body, not like out of body. And I can actually focus. My brain works better on it because I'm not like on this like sugar high low and feeling super irritable and anxious. So this, in my opinion right now, it's not an option. This is a necessity, right? Like we're all trying to manage so much right now. Take the 5 minutes to make this smoothie. It will drastically change your morning. Everything that I teach is backed by science, right? So I use the science and then I make it really relatable and sustainable so you can actually put it into practice. And these smoothies taste delicious. So it's not like I'm asking you to eat something disgusting, right? So I touched on it briefly before, but I also want to mention cravings here because a lot of people are saying that they're dealing with a lot of snacking and a lot of cravings right now, right? So there are a few things to look at here, but one of them is that dip in the blood sugar curve, right? So when it dips low, we crave sugar and carbohydrates. So we want to avoid that low dip in our blood sugar levels, not just because of the cravings, but because it leaves us like literally hangry, where we're out of body, you know, and it's not supportive. It doesn't help us make a decision that supports us at our next meal. And we want to show up present and in our bodies to be able to do that, as opposed to fighting this response that's going on. I talked about cortisol a little bit earlier, right? So that is the stress hormone. It's not bad in small doses, right? Our body produces it to protect us. But when, as I just said, like when it is chronically elevated, we crave these palatable foods, these sugars, these carbohydrates. And we can manage these cortisol levels through eating good hormone balancing foods. All of those things that I just listed, right? Through meditation, through movement, through good sleep. And the thing is that our cortisol levels are going to affect how we sleep, right? So good sleep is essential for managing cortisol, but we won't be able to get good sleep if we're on this cortisol roller coaster, right? So it's kind of like a catch-22. It all works together. And I was actually doing an Instagram live yesterday and I mentioned that, you know, our sleep affects our gut health, but our gut health also affects our sleep. Right? So it's essential that we're doing like all of these little pieces, which is why I teach a very holistic approach to transforming your gut health, because it's not just one thing, right? No one that sells you, if anyone's selling you one thing to fix all your issues, it's not real, okay? It's a holistic approach that we have to take. Insulin is another hormone. It's that fat storage hormone. It's a pro-inflammatory hormone, right? Insulin is secreted by the pancreas to allow your cells to take in glucose, blood sugar, right? Talking about that blood sugar curve, for energy or storage, and it prevents fat cells from being broken down. This is also why weight loss does not come down to calories in, calories out. Weight loss comes down to hormones, you know? Calorie counting is not going to get you there if your hormones are out of whack, if you're hungry, if you're starving, if you're eating like 100 calorie packs, right? Like it doesn't work. Science shows that it doesn't work. So because it comes down to hormones, insulin will literally stop your body from being able to burn fat. You know, I know that we don't really talk about that too much because I work with women that have like digestive issues, skin issues, anxiety issues, things like that. But I figured I'd have to throw it out there. So once again, eating these protein-rich meals is linked to the reduction in insulin resistance. Omega-3s found in fish can actually help lower these fasting insulin levels. So salmon and walnuts and chia seeds, things like that, those are really high in omega-3s. They are also anti-inflammatory. So once again, really helpful for the stress response, right? In addition, those greens that I love to talk about that are loaded with fiber, they're also loaded with magnesium, and this can actually help improve insulin sensitivity. And once again, to link it all back, it's important to improve insulin sensitivity because insulin is triggered and it is an inflammatory hormone. And here's the thing, when our body is in a state of inflammation, they are dealing with all this bloating, this acne, these digestive issues, right? This inflammation is a stressor for the body. It's something that your body has to fight constantly. This alone can help increase your anxiety levels, right? That's why that's really important. So that's kind of what I wanted to get into there with the blood sugar curve, with those very specific hormones that can affect our stress response. And in addition, surprise, surprise, but also not at all, right? This is why I teach gut health, is that the gut bacteria actually influences insulin. So tons of research is supporting that during obesity, our immune system is often responding to components of bacteria that leak through the intestinal tissue, leak through that gut lining, and this results in inflammation, right? In turn, inflammation can drive insulin resistance, which then predisposes people to diabetes. So our gut bacteria literally influences our insulin sensitivity. So this is where the gut bacteria and like weight response, the gut bacteria and diabetes link, that's where this all comes into play. And this is stressful on the body. So this is something that we really want to manage. How do we do this? We really increase the amount of good bacteria in the gut, right? We don't eat the foods that wipe out the good bacteria. We populate the gut with good bacteria through fermented foods. If they sit well with you, if they don't, we've got another gut issue going on, reach out to me, right? If you feel like you get bloated after like fermented foods and things like that. But it's not all about adding in the probiotic rich foods or taking a probiotic. We have to feed them. We have to feed them with these good prebiotics. Lots of veggies, right? Things like that. Jerusalem artichoke, onion, garlic, things like that. But also if your body can't handle prebiotics very well, like leeks, like garlic, like onion, also come talk to me, because that's a sign of a gut issue, right? And none of these things need to last forever, right? So once we fix that root issue, the root cause of what's causing those sensitivities, chances are those sensitivities won't be there anymore. So any inflammation in the gut affects the immune system, which then sends inflammation throughout the entire body. So it's not just like, oh, we've got some bloating, right? But if there's inflammation in the gut, it triggers inflammation throughout the entire body, systemic inflammation. And this inflammation affects all of our hormones. And so it's going to affect cortisol, right, which is that stress hormone. It's going to negatively affect our happy hormones, right? It's going to affect insulin. It really affects all of these hormones, and it's going to cause stress on our body. So it's essential to really nourish our gut health to avoid creating systemic inflammation in the body and therefore causing mad stress on the body, right? And then the last thing that I really want to talk about, well, before I get into like some things that you can add in today, the last thing I want to talk about is these food sensitivities, right? So if we're eating things and we are reacting poorly to them, maybe we've got some bloating, maybe we have acne, maybe it's hormonal acne, maybe we've got eczema, maybe we've got tons of gas, or we've got constipation, diarrhea, we've got an autoimmune issue, all of these things, right? Something that we're eating is not working with our body because we're suffering from a gut dysfunction, right? And every time we eat a food that doesn't work with us, we are triggering inflammation. Eating these foods that doesn't work with our body is incredibly stressful on the body. The body goes into high alert, right? And inflammation initially is actually beneficial. It's our body being like, wait, send healing this way. But if this continues over time, this wears on our body over and over again, right? This is exhausting. Our body's like, hello. And this is when we see this very small little issue of just like, oh, a little bit of bloating become a much bigger issue potentially if it's not properly taken care of. So these food sensitivities and this gut reaction causes stress on the body, right? In addition, so I guess I said that was my last thing. It's not. I also want to really touch on the fact that the gut-brain connection, y'all, is so real, okay? So our gut and our brain are connected, intricately connected via a bidirectional pathway that goes up and down, right? And it's called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is so powerful. And it affects our ability to digest our food, right? It affects so many things, so don't just minimize it to that. But the point is the gut and the brain are connected, right? And there are actually more messages sent from the gut to the brain than from the brain to the body, if you can imagine that. So a lot of people call the gut the second brain, but the gut is the first brain, to be completely honest, because there are more messages sent from the gut to the brain than from the brain out to the entire body. Like, isn't that amazing? So what's going on in our gut affects everything. It affects our mental health, anxiety levels, depression levels, brain fog, mental clarity, all of these things, right? And a very like simple way to kind of understand this connection is thinking about when you get butterflies in your tummy, right? This is an actual physical sensation that you feel in your gut that comes from just like thinking that something, like feeling nervous and perceiving something, right? So you're like, oh, I feel a little scared, or I feel a little nervous, or I feel a little excited, right? You literally physically get butterflies in your stomach. So these things are clearly connected, right? So that being said, the foods that we eat, the foods that literally enter our mouth and enter our gut, right, are affecting how we feel mentally, are affecting how resilient we are to stressors, are affecting our anxiety levels. In addition to that, most of the serotonin, which is that feel-good happy hormone, is actually physically produced in the gut itself. So if there's a gut issue, we could potentially not be producing enough serotonin. And that in itself is going to lead to more anxiety and depression. So these things are so connected. It's not just about the bloating. It's truly, the gut affects our brain. It affects our stress response. It affects our anxiety, all of those things, right? So that's kind of the like education portion on all of this and why this is so important. So a few things that I mentioned earlier that really, bumped those blood sugar levels, and in addition, they also can trigger inflammation in the body, tend to wear away at that gut lining, right? All of these things. This is sugar. So we really want to be mindful of the amount of sugar that we're consuming right now, and these like starches, these processed starches, in addition to everything that I've just said, are also weakening for the immune system. They're not supportive of immune function. So we really want to be supporting our immune systems right now, right? So the sugar and the processed carbohydrates have got to go. And this doesn't mean that we need to feel shame if we've eaten a cookie. Like, that is not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to equip you with some education to make empowered decisions on what you allow into your space, because it is going to affect you in a very important way. It's going to affect how you show up in this world. It's going to affect how you feel in your body. Yeah. So some foods that we can add in, I would say first and foremost, take out the sugar and the processed carbohydrates, right? Secondly, things that we want to add in, things that I mentioned earlier, healthy fats, right? We've got avocado, we've got chia seeds, we've got walnuts, we've got almonds, whatever works best for your body. We want healthy proteins, right? These can be beans and legumes if you follow a vegan diet. I find that that's very difficult for someone that's suffering with gut dysfunction, right? So I'm a fan of small amounts of high quality animal protein. Maybe it's salmon, wild salmon, maybe it's organic pasture-raised chicken. Whatever really works for your body, right? But we want to make sure that we're getting in ample amounts of protein as well, because protein is essential for immune function. So healthy fats, protein. We want lots of greens. Greens are good for so many reasons, but really important here, right? And then we also want fiber. So chia seeds, flax seeds, acacia fiber, all of these things in addition to like sources for these things are listed in my cookbook, in any of my programs, in my brand new gut health guide, survival guide, quarantine edition, right? I list all of this out for you, and every single recipe follows this guideline. I have done this work for you. So those are the things that we want to kind of add more of into the diet to really support our anxiety and stress levels. And once again, I don't really see this as like an option right now. For me, like, the anxiety is coming in waves. And I'm trying to manage it as best as I can, right? I feel like that might be happening for all of us. So for me, like, it's not really an option right now. It's essential that I'm eating these foods to support my body, because it's the only thing like keeping me going during this time. I mean, not the only thing, that was a bit dramatic, but it's like literally keeping me going during this time. But this is why I eat this way all the time, is because it's so important for my life, for me to make it through the day, for me to feel happy, for me to be able to come on here with energy, right? So during this time of higher stress and uncertainty and anxiety, like, please eat for your blood sugar curve and eat to support your gut health. I couldn't say that this is more essential. This is a non-negotiable, right? And then there are also some other amazing, juicy lifestyle things that we can do to help manage our stress and our anxiety levels, right? we've got meditation, we've got breath work, we've got long walks, we've got laughter. Don't overlook laughter and the importance of laughter during all of this, right? It literally releases dopamine in the body. It helps us feel good. So don't overlook these things either. And if you want a guide to do all of this, everything that I've just said, while potentially in quarantine, while self-isolating, while like stocking your pantry and fridge with things that are like more shelf stable and will last longer, and packing your freezer with all these goodies. Like, if you want a guide to just be able to do this and literally follow it, I have packaged it all up for you in my brand new Gut Health Survival Guide, Quarantine Edition. I literally made recipes that use mostly shelf stable ingredients or frozen ingredients. All of them optimize your blood sugar levels here. They all follow my gut health guidelines. I give you food storage tips. So you can like elongate the shelf life and the lifetime of all of these foods that you're buying, right? Because we're all kind of trying not to go to the store as much right now. We also want to save money right now, probably. So these tips are essential and so helpful and amazing. I've got lifestyle tips to manage stress and anxiety during this time. I've got like a day on the program, right? So you kind of have this outline of what you can do throughout the day to support your digestive health, your stress levels, your anxiety, your skin health, all of these things, because it also doesn't help to be in this uncertain time right now and be dealing with like bloating and fatigue and gas and skin rashes, right? Like that's not adding to any of the fun right now. It just makes us more anxious and irritable. So I have packaged literally all of it up in this guide for you. And there is a link to it in the description of this video. Make sure to snag it if you want support during this, if you want to feel more in your body and you want to decrease your anxiety levels and your stress levels and all of those things. And, so many of my students have gone through this program. And I'll specifically talk about my sister, and she now kind of like helps women kind of manage anxiety through many different things, but many different modalities. But one of the things that was essential that she would like literally get on this live and talk about for me right now, she's like the #1 supporter of my program, which is very sweet. But she's like, Hannah, your program allowed me to my anxiety has never been as low than it is when I'm following your program. Like, it was an absolute game changer for her because we are supporting your brain and your blood sugar curve throughout the entirety of it. So with all of that being said, get your hands on this guide. If you have any questions, if you're catching the replay of this and you're like, Hannah, that didn't make sense, or can you elaborate on this? Or like, wait, I've got a question. Does this work? Let me know in the comments. I've got you. I'm here to support you. And thank you so much for joining me today. Get your hands on this Gut Health Survival Guide. It's going to change the game for you. And I'm sending you so much love. And don't forget to find gratitude in the little things. It's going to help. To take time for yourself, to take so many deep breaths, and to be really compassionate towards yourself during this time. It's hard on all of us right now. So really see where you can do these things, that you control the things that you actually can control during this time, to feel a little more at ease during this process. Yeah. So sending you lots and lots of love. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.